Hi, my name is Dr. Ariel Schwartz, and it's a pleasure to join you here today. I am bringing you a short yoga flow focused on alignment of the spine and kind of inner alignment with your own intention, inner compass, your purpose. So please join me on the mat for about 20 minutes of movement and connection. I'd like to start out by sharing a short poem. It's a Zen poem by Ryokan, and it says, like the little stream making its way through the mossy crevices, I too quietly turn clear and transparent. Like the little stream making its way through the mossy crevices, I too quietly turn clear and transparent. This invitation of movement is just like that. It's a clarifying practice and kind of moving out of the fogginess or the lack of clarity that sometimes can build up within us and realigning yourself with your own true nature. So I'll move back on my mat. I'll invite you to take a moment to tune into your intention, what you are hoping to get out of this time on your mat. And we'll start seated, and I'll invite you to start in a cross-legged position. And with this focus on alignment, we're going to play a lot today with spinal movement and kind of opening up that channel of communication that really is around the vagus nerve. So if we think about the vagus nerve as the central nervous system and traveling alongside of our spine, when we have tightness in the low back, across the thoracic spine and in our cervical spine, it can limit the arterial blood flow to the vagus nerve, which can impede that mind-body communication system. And we can also find kind of blocks around the cerebral spinal fluid, or that fluid nature of you, that's connection of the nervous system to your endocrine system, to your immune system. So we're optimizing that mind-body health connection. So to begin, I'm going to start at the base of the spine. We're going to start around the bowl of the pelvis and beginning to find some rotational movements, really mirroring that three-dimensionality of the bowl of your pelvis. And we'll connect to breath, inhaling forward, exhaling as you round back. So breath-centered movement. And the other direction. And with all of the practices that I offer here, I invite you to find your own rhythm, your pace with the movement and the breath. And so it's an inner listening as much as a following. Beautiful. And we'll come up to center and then finding some flexion extension. So exhale as you set the spine back, and then inhale, drawing yourself forward. And then again, finding your range of motion. So if you see this from the side, it can be very small range of motion, really an inner listening to what feels right for you. You might find a little bit of a larger, broader range of motion. And neither is better or worse, right or wrong. And again, with your breath, inhale forward and exhale back. And keeping that sense of the base of your spine, the movement around your sacrum, your sits bones. Go ahead. Just a few more. And then coming to center. This next movement will be along your side bodies and using one hand for support, just allowing yourself to reach perhaps the other arm overhead. And of course, you can keep your hand at your hips or low back. You can look down, forward, or up. Connecting to breath here, and you'll sense that there's a contraction on one side of the spine and an opening on the other. And then let's take that to the other side, leaning, setting your hand for support, maybe a hand, the upper arm rests on the side body or comes overhead. And feeling that dual nature, the contraction and the expansion. Connecting to breath, finding how your neck feels most supported in this shape, looking down, forward, or up. Beautiful. And back up to center. Our next set of spinal movements will be a gentle twist. And again, from this easy seated pose. And if you are doing this sitting up on a chair or up on a lift, all well, you can do this in many modified formats, drawing arms up overhead and allowing yourself to twist a nice open twist to one side. You don't even need to place fingertips on the ground. You can really just allow that twist to be organized from within. So we're not pushing ourselves past our limits. You might use hands now, fingertips to the earth and to that opposite knee, and allowing that to be a support for the lengthening of your spine. And then maybe a little bit of a deepening twist. Inhale to find length. And then exhale, just your head can turn perhaps the opposite direction. So looking to the forward shoulder and beyond, maybe stretching your eyes to the corners of their socket as if trying to look behind you. And then head to center, drawing arms back up overhead. And we'll exhale around to the other side. And initially here, don't need to make contact with anything. It's kind of feeling that twist is organized by your spine. And then placing fingertips behind you. Maybe the front hand comes across to your thigh or knee. And then inhale lets you become longer. And exhale, maybe a little bit of a deepening. Again, deep respect for your body's limits. Inhale to lengthen. And exhale, just turning your head, your chin, your eyes coming over the front shoulder, your eyes reaching around behind you. Coming back to breath. I like to think of this twist almost like a double helix, so that the spine is going one way and then we're giving a little counter twist in the cervical spine. All right, and then come on out, back to center, arms overhead. And then this time, hands behind you, just taking your legs out for a moment, and you can rock your knees a little side to side. That rocking might take your back arm off the floor. Feeling how we're unwinding around your sacrum. And then we'll pause to one side, and it doesn't matter which side, and we're going to turn back behind you and take a moment just to feel the psoas, that's a primary connector muscle between your spine and your pelvis and your upper hip flexors, your femurs. So kind of tuning into that hip leg connection and your spine. And then gazing behind you to start, connecting to breath here. And just like we did in the other twist, just your chin this time begins to come forward, as if looking over your front shoulder. And again, your eyes can reach to the corners of their sockets. Come back to breath. Gorgeous. Chin to center, releasing out of the twist in your lower body. You might windshield wiper your knees side to side a few times. And then eventually coming to side two. And from deer pose base, beginning to twist toward the back, that upper leg. And you don't have to push to that edge. You can find the edge and back out. And sensing that connection of your psoas and how it connects to the inner leg through the hip flexor to low back. Feeling again the quality of the double helix as we turn just the gaze forward, your chin, your head going in the opposite direction of this twist, your eyes reach to the corners of their sockets. Some good bilateral integration happening here. Good for your brain. Beautiful. One more breath here. And then coming up and around and forward. This time, invitation to bring the soles of your feet together. And just like we did with that earlier flexion extension, a similar action here, this different position of your legs, coming forward and back a few times. Good. And then we'll lift up. I'm going to invite you to just roll over the feet and coming into a tabletop. Take the next few shapes from this home base. And arriving in tabletop, you might sway your hips a little side to side. You might find some free form cat and cow here. Sensing and feeling your spine in this shape. Good. And then coming into a nice stable shape, I'll invite you to lift through your left leg. And in that lift of your left leg, allow yourself to have a little bit of the cow shape of your spine, which means that if this is cat, if you're rounding, the cow here has a little bit of an arch in the low spine, and let that stay here as you lift through your left leg. You can keep the knee bent, you can flex the foot, even send that foot towards the ceiling. And then the invitation is to keep the curve in your low back just as it is as you draw your left knee under. We will restrict the range of motion because we're not going into a full flexion curl. We're going to keep this action and go ahead and press your leg back and up. And then under curl that limited range. And one more time like that. Lifting up and under. And then sending your left foot back and just for a moment rock on the toes, tucked under, greeting your left calf. And then lifting left leg, crossing over your right, and then take a gaze over towards your right foot. So you'll likely sense and feel a little banana curve in your spine. You can take your eyes to gaze towards left foot on the right side of your body. And then coming back through center. And again, a little free form cat and cow. And then coming back to a neutral spine, and then allowing that arching of the spine like the cow shape. It can be subtle as you bring right knee off the earth. And you can keep that 90-degree bend in knee and in the ankle. And just feeling that shape. You can even press the sole of your right foot towards the ceiling 3 or 4 times, waking up through the back of your right leg. Keeping this shape in your spine, drawing right knee under. Exhale. And inhale, press back and up. And exhale under. And again. Beautiful. And under. And then sending right leg back. A few heel rocks. And then right leg up and over. And gazing towards your right foot on the left side of your body. And you can feel that contraction in the left side body and the expansion on the right side. Back to breath. And back through to tabletop. And from tabletop, I'll invite you to either walk your knees back or your hands slightly forward. And keeping that arch of the spine once again, it's allowing yourself to come forward and then lower to the earth. And you might even lower in a way that lets you keep a little bit of that inchworm shape for a moment. So your knees and chest and chin touch down, but your hips are lifted. And then slowly lower everything all the way down. Okay, so from this shape, a little spinal reset once again. I'll invite you to take the palms of your hands and slide them back so that your hands are relatively under your elbows. And then from this shape, I'm going to invite you to turn your toes under and press your knees down. So finding once again a little bit of that inchworm from the ground up. So as your knees press down, you'll perhaps send your sits bones or your sacrum up. And it doesn't have to be super dramatic. And just allowing yourself to feel that stretch around your sacrum, your low back. And then settle this down to the earth, reaching one leg long. You can really rotate the inner leg up and set it back down, reaching the other leg up, rotate the inner thigh up, setting back down. Now both tops of feet are on the mat. And then from here, finding cobra. And you get to choose how much lift of your upper body, how much press into the hands you want. You might curl down a little bit. You might even roll your shoulders forward, up, back, and then finding your sense of lift here, whether that's super sweet and low to the earth, whether that's lifting further up. Find this in your body and come back to breath. And on an exhale, lowering for a moment and pressing back into child's pose. And let this be sweet. Maybe your head is heavy, forehead resting on the mat. And send your breath into your back body. If your breath quickened in that cobra extension, let your heartbeat and breath slow back down. And then gently walking yourself up when you feel ready to sitting on your heels. And if you need to use a block or a bolster, if sitting on your heels is uncomfortable for ankles or knees, adapt this, make this yours. The next invitation is to find some spinal movement right here. And the range of motion might feel different in this position. Now just allowing yourself to listen and adapt. Inhaling forward and exhale back. You can even imagine that your spine here is creating wave-like movements, or is more like a sea fan in the bottom of the ocean. Good. And then coming back to a neutral spine, and I'll invite you to take your hands behind your head, interlacing your hands, and giving support here, a little bit of resistance play. And I'll invite you to send the back of your head into your hands, resist with your hands, so that we're waking up through the muscles in the back of the neck. You might even feel just the teeniest, tiniest little shake in there. Good. And then releasing your hands and placing them on your forehead. This time it's as if you want to press your head forward, but your hands are resisting. And then releasing your hands down. Coming back to breath here, sensing how your connection to breath is the the perhaps most important tool for spinal alignment. Your breath is opening that communication channel between body and mind. So 3 more full deep breaths, as if inhaling and really allowing that connection from sacrum all the way up to the crown of the head. And exhale back down all the way to your root. Good. One more. Gorgeous. All right, just a little bit more before we're complete in this practice. I'll invite you to come forward into a tabletop. And from this tabletop, once again, finding that cow shape, that arch of your spine. And then from here, lifting your knees off the floor, a little hovering tabletop. And then beginning to press back, keeping your knees bent, and as much as possible, keeping that length of your spine. So we're kind of avoiding the tendency maybe to round in downward dog, to really keep long spine. And then from that long spine, maybe begin to lengthen out through your legs, but you do not have to come all the way into straight. In fact, I really encourage you to just find the edge and meet yourself there. And then from this downward dog shape, I will invite you to take right leg forward and left knee down. And you might want blocks for this. I can show a little bit of a variation with blocks if that's helpful in this shape. And some of you might take your hands to your knee. And in this shape, allowing yourself to curl in for a moment, feeling how that awakens perhaps sensation in your left hip flexor, curling it in. And then as if you could draw left knee and right heel toward each other, let that be the stable base. Now, this is a beautiful, perfect place to stay. Some of you might take left foot off the ground, reach back and take hold, and coming into a quad stretch. Now, tightness in the hip flexors and the quadriceps is often a culprit of tightness in the low back. So finding some way to open these muscles can be beneficial for spinal alignment. And again, that squeeze of left knee, right foot, lifting your heart. Maybe your right arm lifts, not necessary. And then exhale, release. And right foot can step back to meet the left as a transition to side two. Left foot forward, right knee down, maybe blocks. Maybe you come up into a 90-90 lunge. It's big, it's deep. Maybe you find that curling in. And then from there, drawing right knee forward, left knee back as we begin to lengthen. Begin to lengthen the spine here. This might be enough, that feeling of everything drawing towards midline. Maybe that allows you to take right foot off the earth and take hold. And coming back to breath. Maybe left arm lifts as well. Unwind, release, coming forward, maybe blocks, lifting right knee this time, stepping right foot forward to meet the left, and finding Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Our transition to standing from here, I'll invite you to take your hands to your hips, your elbows up, just like we had on the floor in that cobra variation. Elbows up, knees can be bent, and finding a long spine. Nice long spine, maybe even that same quality of a little bit of the cow shape right there. And then pressing downwards into your legs, coming up to standing with that long spine. And just as you reach the top, letting your tailbone settle down to the earth and sensing and feeling yourself in a new relationship to gravity. I'll invite you in Tadasana to bring your palms by your sides. Here we are, mountain pose, feeling the feet, your very own feet, under your hips. Shoulders stacked above hips. And then drawing the back of your head back just slightly, letting crown of your head feel tall, lifting, lengthening upward. And sensing yourself as the clear channel. Wonderful. I will end our practice here. Of course, you can continue on in any way that you feel called to move at this point, or find an additional practice on the channel to explore forward, but see how it feels just to walk through your day with that alignment reclaimed. Namaste.